Welcome to the Explainer. Today we're going to talk about a system that's all around us, working 24/7, completely silent, and mostly invisible. No, it's not the internet. It's the ecosystem, the amazing, intricate web of life that connects, well, everything. Okay, so to really get a grip on this whole thing, we've got to zoom in and start with the basic building block of our environment. Because honestly, whether you're looking at a giant forest or just a little puddle after it rains, they all run on the exact same operating system. I mean, think about it. At first glance, they couldn't be more different, right? One is super dry, maybe looks a little empty. The other is soaking wet and just bursting with life. But if you look a little closer, past the surface, you'll find they share the exact same blueprint. And that's the word right there, ecosystem. Each one of these places is its own little world, a kind of living machine where every single part has a purpose. See, an ecosystem isn't just a location, it's a living, breathing process. So try not to think of it as just a collection of stuff. It's way more like a bustling city. You've got this constant dance happening between the living things and the non-living things. The plants and the sunlight, the fish and the water, all interacting with each other to keep the whole thing in balance. And here's what's so cool about it. Every single ecosystem, I don't care if it's a puddle or the entire planet, is built from just two types of ingredients. On one side, you've got the biotic. That's all the living stuff. And on the other, the abiotic, all the non-living parts, sunlight, water, dirt. And these two sides are in a constant conversation. All right, so now that we know the ingredients, let's meet the main players. In the living or biotic world, every organism has a very specific job to do, and they basically fall into one of three critical roles. First up, you have the producers. You can think of these guys as the power plants of the ecosystem. They're the only ones who can make their own food, usually by soaking up energy from the sun. They are the absolute foundation, creating the energy that everyone else depends on. Next, you've got the consumers. They can't make their own food, so, they've got to get their energy by eating other living things. This group covers everybody, from the plant-eating herbivores all the way up to the meat-eating carnivores. And finally, we get to the unsung heroes of this whole operation, the cleanup crew, the decomposers. These are the tiny recyclers, things like bacteria and fungi, whose entire job is to break down all the dead stuff and waste. I absolutely love this quote. It might sound a little funny, but calling them original gangsters really captures just how powerful decomposers are. Seriously, without them, the entire system would just stop. It would be buried under its own waste, and there'd be no way to get crucial nutrients back into the soil for new life to grow. And to really get how important they are, just ask yourself this. How come a natural pond can just sit there for years perfectly fine, but that fish tank you have at home needs to be cleaned all the time or it gets super gross and toxic? What's the real difference? The answer is simple. That pond is a complete ecosystem. It has a full-time, hard-working team of decomposers breaking down all the fish waste and dead leaves. The aquarium, it's missing its cleanup crew, so the waste just builds up and up. It's the perfect example of why these tiny organisms are the ultimate recyclers, keeping the whole system humming along. So we have our players, producers, consumers, and decomposers. But what connects them all? It's the flow of energy. And this flow isn't just random. It follows some very specific, very important rules. So energy moves through the ecosystem in a sequence that we call a food chain. It's a pretty straightforward path of who eats who. It always starts with the sun's energy, which gets captured by a producer, and then it moves up through all the different levels of consumers. But here's where it gets really, really interesting. This transfer of energy, it's incredibly inefficient. There's this rule in ecology called the 10% law, and it basically says that only about 10% of the energy from one level actually makes it to the next level up. And this chart shows it perfectly. Let's say the producers at the bottom have 10,000 joules of energy. The grasshopper that eats the grass only gets about 1,000 of those. Then the snake that eats the grasshopper, it only gets 100. A whopping 90% of the energy is lost at every single step, mostly as body heat. So here's the big takeaway. The higher up the food chain you go, the less energy is available. For millions of years, these systems kept themselves in a really delicate balance. But then, in what is basically a blink of an eye in geological time, a brand new player showed up and started changing all the rules. And that player was us. And one of the most dangerous ways we've disrupted things is through a process called biomagnification. Now, remember how energy goes down as you move up the food chain? Well, certain nasty man-made chemicals like pesticides or heavy metals do the exact opposite. They don't break down. They accumulate. They build up. This creates a really terrifying situation. The animal at the very top of the food chain gets the least amount of energy, but they get the highest concentration of toxins. This means that top predators, and that includes us, by the way, are the most at risk of being poisoned by the very chemicals we're putting into the environment. We've also done direct damage to the planet's own protective shield, the ozone layer. But you know what? The story isn't all bad news. In fact, it's actually a story of hope. Because when scientists figured out what was causing the problem, the entire world actually came together to ban the chemicals responsible. And as you can see, it worked. The ozone layer is healing. It's powerful, concrete proof that when we decide to act together, we can actually reverse the damage we've caused. So, after understanding how these incredible systems work and how we've thrown a wrench in them, it all leads to one final, really important question. What is our role in all of this? When it comes down to it, a lot of it has to do with our daily choices. The trash we create basically falls into two camps. On the left, you've got biodegradable waste. That's the stuff our decomposer buddies can handle. It becomes part of the natural cycle. But on the right is the non-biodegradable stuff, like plastic. The decomposers can't break it down. It just sits there for hundreds, even thousands of years, messing up the natural cycles we've been talking about. In the end, when you really understand the ecosystem, you realize one profound truth. We aren't just living in nature. We are, by far, the most powerful force within it. Our choices, big and small, are what decide if the system thrives or if it breaks. So this question on the screen, it's not just for dramatic effect. The story of our planet is being written right now, by us. And the role we choose to play, hero, villain, or something in between, that's going to determine how it ends. The choice really is ours.